My father left everything to my sister, but behind her quiet smile, she was hiding a secret that would destroy our family forever. The day my father passed away was the beginning of the end for my family as I knew it. Our once peaceful household erupted into chaos, suspicion, and bitter accusations, all because of a will that no one expected. Dad was always a man of secrets. Quiet, reserved, and seemingly distant in his final years, he left behind a fortune and, more importantly, a legacy tangled in lies. When the will was read, it was clear. The entire inheritance, every penny and every asset, was left to my younger sister, Emily. I remember staring at the lawyer, my mind refusing to comprehend the words. "All to Emily," he said. "There are no provisions for you or any other siblings." My heart sank. Was this some cruel joke? We had all cared for Dad in different ways, supported him during his illness. Why was I left out? Emily, on the other hand, wore a calm, unreadable expression. But beneath that serene facade, something dark simmered. The tension grew as weeks passed. I tried to reach out to her, hoping for answers, but she always had a reason to avoid me. Rumors began to spread in our small town. Whispers about secret bank accounts, hidden debts, and a scandal no one dared mention aloud. Driven by desperation and growing suspicion, I began digging into Dad's affairs. What I discovered was far worse than I imagined. Hidden among the papers in Dad's study was a stack of letters from a woman no one knew. Their contents revealed a secret life, an affair that lasted decades, a child born in secrecy, and debts that threatened to swallow our family's fortune. Emily had known about this all along. Not only that, but she had struck a deal with the woman, ensuring her silence in exchange for a portion of the inheritance money Emily was now reluctant to share. As the truth unraveled, alliances shattered. Our family dinners became battlegrounds of accusations and recriminations. What was once a tight-knit family was now fractured beyond repair. One night, I confronted Emily. Her cold confession left me numb. She admitted to manipulating Dad in his final days, playing the dutiful daughter while securing her claim to the fortune and the secret. I realized then that the inheritance wasn't just money, it was a Pandora's box of betrayal, lies, and shattered trust. But even amidst the darkness, I vowed to uncover the full truth. Because some secrets, no matter how deeply buried, refused to stay hidden forever. The discovery of those letters was only the beginning. The deeper I dug, the more tangled the web of deceit became. Dad's hidden life wasn't just a secret affair, it was a labyrinth of lies, betrayals, and manipulations that stretched far beyond what any of us had imagined. Each letter was like a shard of glass, cutting through that fragile veneer of my family's history. They were passionate, desperate, and full of veiled threats. The woman, whose name was Evelyn, wrote of loneliness, broken promises, and a child she was forced to give up, her half-sibling, a living reminder of Dad's double life. Emily's involvement was even darker than I feared. She had been in constant contact with Evelyn for years, orchestrating meetings and quietly negotiating terms. The inheritance wasn't just money to her. It was leverage, a way to control a secret that could ruin everything. I remember the cold realization hitting me one night as I read through the correspondence. Emily wasn't just greedy, she was scared. Scared that the truth would come out, that our family's carefully constructed facade would crumble, and that she would lose everything she had manipulated her way into. It wasn't long before I confronted her. The confrontation was brutal, words thrown like knives, accusations spilling out in torrents. She denied at first, then confessed with a bitterness that shocked me. She admitted to using the secret to blackmail Dad into changing his will, promising to keep Evelyn silent forever. But the price of silence was high. Evelyn wanted more than money. She wanted recognition, a place in the family she had been denied. Emily's refusal to grant it only deepened the wounds. The scandal exploded when Evelyn appeared at the reading of the will, unexpected and unannounced. Her presence was like a bombshell. She was determined to claim what she believed was rightfully hers, and the family feud escalated into a full-blown war. Lawyers were hired, accusations flew, and the once united family was torn apart. I watched helplessly as siblings took sides, alliances formed and broke, and the house that had been our childhood home turned into a battleground of bitterness. Amidst the chaos, I struggled to hold on to the memories of the father I thought I knew, the man behind the secrets and lies. The inheritance had become more than money. It was a legacy of pain and fractured trust. And yet, through it all, I vowed to find a way to heal the wounds, to piece together the broken fragments of my family, no matter how impossible it seemed. Because some secrets, no matter how dark, demand a light. The tension that filled the room during the legal battle was suffocating. Every hearing felt like a gladiator's arena where family members, once bound by blood, now fought like strangers driven by anger and betrayal. The courtroom echoed with accusations, tears, and carefully rehearsed denials. Emily stood her ground fiercely, wielding the will as both shield and sword. But Evelyn, the woman who had emerged from the shadows, was equally determined. She was no longer the silent figure from the letters, but a force demanding recognition not just for the money, but for the child she had raised in secret. The case dredged up painful memories. Our parents' past wasn't as perfect as I had believed. Secrets that should have stayed buried surfaced in brutal testimonies and whispered gossip. Old wounds reopened, and every family gathering became a battlefield of passive-aggressive comments and veiled threats. I found myself torn. Part of me wanted to side with Emily. After all, she had taken care of Dad in his last days and seemed to be the rightful heir. But another part felt sympathy for Evelyn, who had endured years of rejection and heartbreak, trying to claim her place in a family that had denied her existence. Meanwhile, my siblings were caught in the crossfire. Some sided with Emily out of loyalty, others with Evelyn out of a sense of justice. The once unbreakable sibling bond was now frayed and tattered beyond recognition. Behind closed doors, Emily's composure cracked. I caught glimpses of the guilt that no amount of money could erase. Late-night phone calls, whispered conversations, moments of vulnerability exposed the woman trapped by her own choices. The media caught wind of the scandal, turning our family drama into a public spectacle. Headlines splashed tales of betrayal, secret children, and inheritance wars. Strangers offered opinions on our grief and mistakes, turning our private pain into their entertainment. In the midst of this chaos, I clung to the hope that somehow, beneath the layers of deceit and anger, we could find a way to heal. That the legacy Dad left wasn't meant to divide us but to bring us together no matter how broken the path. But as the court battles raged on, I couldn't shake the feeling that some wounds might never truly heal, and some secrets were better left untouched. The courtroom's cold air was nothing compared to the chill that settled between us. Every word spoken felt like a blow, every glance a dagger. The family I once knew had dissolved into strangers, each guarding their own wounds and secrets fiercely. As the trial dragged on, the pressure began to weigh heavily on all of us. Arguments that once seemed like mere disputes over money now revealed deeper fractures, years of resentment, jealousy, and pain laid bare for everyone to see. Emily fought to protect what she saw as her birthright, but her actions revealed a desperation that scared even those closest to her. The burden of maintaining a lie, of holding back Evelyn's truth, was visible in her weary eyes and forced smiles. Evelyn, for her part, was unrelenting. She came not just for the money, but for acknowledgement, for the chance to rewrite the story of her life, to claim the family she had been denied. Her voice, once silent in the letters, now filled the courtroom with raw emotion and undeniable truth. In the midst of the chaos, I found myself questioning everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and justice. Was blood really thicker than water? Or is it simply easier to believe in lies than to confront the messy truth? Our parents' secrets had set a trap none of us had seen coming. And now, caught in the web, we had to decide. Continue that fight and risk losing each other forever, or find a way to forgive, to rebuild, and to heal. But forgiveness felt like a distant dream. Trust had been shattered, and the scars ran deep. Outside the courtroom, life went on, but inside, time seemed to stand still waiting for a verdict, for closure, for the chance to begin again. The courtroom drama reached a fever pitch as new revelations surfaced, shaking the very foundation of our fractured family. Just when we thought we had seen it all, another bombshell dropped, one that no one was prepared for. During a recess, a private investigator hired by my lawyer presented evidence that challenged the authenticity of the will itself. Documents that appeared to be forged, signatures that didn't match, and inconsistencies in the timeline of Dad's final days. Suddenly, the entire legal battle shifted from inheritance to potential fraud. Emily's confident facade cracked under the pressure. Her carefully woven story unraveled as witnesses came forward, sharing glimpses of manipulation and coercion that hinted at a darker side to her relationship with Dad. The woman I had once envied for her common control now appeared vulnerable and cornered. But the most devastating revelation was yet to come. In a quiet moment, Evelyn revealed that she had another piece of the puzzle, a letter from Dad himself, hidden away, addressed to me. It was a confession, an apology, and a plea for forgiveness. Dad's words spoke of regret, of mistakes made too late to fix, and of a hope that his children might one day heal the wounds left behind. He admitted to his secret life, to the pain it caused, and to the hope that love, not money, would ultimately bind us. Reading that letter was like hearing his voice for the first time in years. It shattered my anger and opened a door to understanding, if not forgiveness. The trial didn't end with a neat resolution. The will was declared contested, and the court ordered mediation, pushing us to confront not only legal claims but the emotional wreckage beneath. In those sessions, the rawness of our pain became impossible to ignore. Tears were shed, apologies whispered, and slowly, walls began to crumble. It was clear that the inheritance was never just about money. It was about identity, belonging, and a desperate need to be seen and loved despite our flaws. While the future remained uncertain, one thing was certain. The legacy my father left was not just a fortune to be divided but a family to be rebuilt. The mediation process was both painful and enlightening. For the first time in years, the walls we had built around our hearts began to crack. Sitting face to face, we were forced to confront not just legal claims but the tangled emotions that had been suffocating us all. Emily, stripped of her usual armor, showed glimpses of vulnerability I hadn't seen before. She confessed the fear that had driven her to manipulate the situation, the fear of losing control, of being alone, and of facing the truth about herself and our father. Evelyn's anger softened, replaced by a weary hope that maybe, just maybe, family wasn't only about blood but about forgiveness. As the sessions wore on, we slowly peeled back layers of resentment and pain. The inheritance, while still disputed, became secondary to the fragile bonds we began to mend. Outside the courtroom and mediation rooms, life continued, but inside us, a transformation was quietly taking place. We started small shared meals, phone calls, and cautious visits. The house that had once echoed with silence and suspicion began to fill with hesitant laughter and tentative conversations. Dad's legacy, complicated and flawed, became a catalyst for growth rather than destruction. I realized that while money can divide, it can also be a reason to reconcile. And those scars remained. We chose to carry them as reminders of our resilience rather than as weapons against one another. The road ahead would be long, filled with challenges and setbacks, but for the first time, I believed that our family could survive not because of what was left behind, but because of what we were willing to rebuild together. The months after the mediation felt like walking through a dense fog, unclear, cold, and uncertain, but slowly, that fog began to lift. The family that once seemed irreparably fractured started to show signs of healing, albeit fragile and tentative. Emily, Evelyn, and I had finally agreed on a framework not just for dividing the inheritance, but for rebuilding what our father's secrets had nearly destroyed. It wasn't easy. Every conversation was laced with tension, every meeting a test of patience and willpower. Emily had to confront her own demons, the guilt of manipulation, the fear that had driven her actions, and the loneliness hidden behind her control facade. She wasn't the villain I once thought she was, but a woman broken by years of secrecy and pressure, trying desperately to hold her world together. Evelyn, too, grappled with the complexity of her position. She had fought hard for recognition, and yet, the cost of that fight had been immense: fractured relationships, lost trust, and an uncertain place in a family that wasn't fully hers. For me, it was the hardest of all. To forgive was not forgetting, and to accept was not approving. I wrestled daily with resentment, sadness, and a deep longing for the family we might have been. But I also saw glimmers of hope, the small, genuine moments when laughter returned, when old jokes were shared, and when we dared to dream of peace. The inheritance itself, once a symbol of greed and betrayal, became something else entirely: a catalyst for growth. We used the money not just to settle debts or buy things, but to invest in counseling, family therapy, and projects that brought us together. There were setbacks, of course. Old wounds reopened, harsh words were exchanged, and trust was tested again and again. But each time, we chose to try again. To listen. To understand. To rebuild. Our father's legacy was complicated, a tangled web of love, mistakes, and secrets, but in facing it, we learned something vital. Families are not perfect. They are messy, painful, and flawed. But they are also resilient. In the end, what remained wasn't just the wealth or the disputed will. It was a fragile, imperfect bond between siblings who, despite everything, chose to hold on to each other. We never returned to what we once were, but perhaps that was never the goal. Instead, we forged something new: a family defined not by secrets or inheritance, but by the courage to face the darkness together. And as I look toward the future, I hold on to that hope, knowing that even broken pieces can be the foundation of something stronger.